You're watching Global News Morning on Global Kingston.
Good Wednesday morning to you. Please join me in welcoming Matt Lee. We're here to talk about investment properties. And Matt, this is an interesting time of year if you do hold some property.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting time because what happens in November is that the property management companies in town, and not only them, but anybody that's usually involved with Queens or St. Lawrence, ask if people are going to renew their lease in May, and it's that far in advance, and if they say no, then the homeowner or the owner, maybe it's parents, have a decision to make if they're going to list that property or if they're going to release it for May. And that releasing time happens from November to January. So we are coming into a time when investment properties are going to kick off, and it's going to be quite busy with that.
And there's a lot of examples of different types of investment properties out
Yeah,
there as
you
well.
know, and the thing is, we talk about different things. We talk about down payments. We talk about how to set it up and what you're comfortable with. And we do have a few examples. I mean, you don't see a lot of buildings like this downtown, but there are a few. You know, there was one that just sold recently, you know, this size, you know, and we do see that is what you would call a building that was built to suit. So basically, if it was built as an eightplex, it was built as an eightplex, you know, and basically if it has, you know, 2 bedrooms in each unit. So you don't have to worry too much about those types of buildings. You might want to have a fire inspection. You might want to have different inspections to make sure that your mortgage company is going to be okay with it. You know, a building like of this size, you know, it's a 4-plex. It would have been an original house and then an addition on the back, and you would have these pieces. So you want to make sure that you're going through each individual piece to make sure that you're being taken care of, because it's you want to make sure that the insurance company is going to be okay with it, and you want to make sure the mortgage company is going to be okay with it.
So that was a large house that has been split up into 4 separate residences.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So then when we see these, and then you look on return on investment, you know, and you want to see, okay, what's the price that we're looking at, and what's the rent that's coming in, or what's the potential rent if it's sitting vacant. So there's a lot of pieces to this. And then you get into houses that have been changed as well. You know, this is, you know, the type of house where it has this huge addition on the back, and it's got this addition that goes up. So at the time, that was probably done in the 60s or 70s, they allowed something like that to happen. And, you know, they normally have a designation called legal non-conforming, because if you built it on that size of lot today, it wouldn't pass. But because it was built and they did it legally, they had it all set up, you want to make sure you get that piece of paper. I work with the city a lot on things. Sometimes there's paperwork from the old days that isn't sticking around, you know, and it's just, now that it's digital, it's very easy, and it's not their fault. It's just sometimes it's not there. So we want to make sure that you have that legal non-conforming piece of paper. You put it in a safe, or you put it in a safety deposit box, and keep it digitally as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, an example sort of the numbers that one has to be aware of, you can talk us through it right now.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the rent and how it sets up. So, so say we had an asking price of $900,000 and you had an income for rent of $60,000. Taxes are $5,000, insurance is $3,000, utilities is $3,500. $3,500, that would be if they were paying their own utilities, and you're talking about common areas and laundry. You got a net price of income of being $48,500. And if you take that $48,500 and divide it by the $900,000, you're going to get a 5.38% cap rate. And that is what we call a cap rate, is actually what your return is. So you look at it and you say, okay, I'm getting 5.38% on my money, and that's not including property management. So if you're doing your own property management, then that's what that cap rate is. It doesn't include inflation either. So the thing is when you're looking at these things and people say, well, you know, I could leave it in the bank and say I'm gonna keep my money there because it does this as a return. Nobody's taking into account what that property is doing over like the 5 years that you're buying it. You know, say you buy and hold, and all of a sudden it's gone up $150,000. So it's something that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at these returns. One, it's a part-time job. Pardon me. Yeah, so it's one of these things that you do have to take into account that you are going to be doing some work, unless you're hiring a property management company.
Wow, all very important information to consider. There are people who actually will just buy it, maybe the parents of a student hold it for 4 years, 5 years, and then sell it again?
Yeah, they'll do it while pardon me, while the kids are in school, they'll hold it for, say, 3 years, and then they'll sell it because they want to control what's going on in the house that their son or daughter lives in.
Always interesting advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Matt Lee.
Real estate tips brought to you by Matt Lee of Royal LePage.